Good morning. My name is Prashant. I work at the Center for Human Rights Studies. I welcome you all to the consultation on potential transitional justice framework for Manipur. Uh, for that, I would like to invite Professor Y.S.R. Murthy to deliver the welcome address first.
Good morning. On behalf of the Center for Human Rights Studies and the Center for Study of Knowledge Systems, I'm pleased to extend a warm welcome to all of you for this consultation on potential transitional justice framework for Manipur. I want to give you a brief backdrop of the context for our work. You're all aware of the fast undertaken by Iram Sharmila. It is unparalleled in the history where a person did not have food and she was on a fast for 15 plus years, and yet you contrast it with the response of the state, and so that's how a few years back we wanted to take up this issue, and our chancellor in fact one day was interacting with the first training course for IAS officers, and there was an officer from the government of Manipur, a senior one, and who appraised Mr. Naveen Jindal about the situation in Manipur, and our chancellor felt that here is a situation where our university should work, and thereafter myself and Professor Shiv Vishwanathan traveled to Manipur, and we spent about a week. We interacted with the senior army officials. We moved heaven and earth and had a meeting with Iram Sharmila, and at that time she was under custody, but she was held in a hospital, and before us eminent persons, including some ministers, legislators from Jammu and Kashmir, were denied permission to meet her, and Gnanpith Award winner Mahasweta Devi also tried to meet Iram Sharmila. She was denied permission. Luckily, we were given permission, and today I want to narrate a few anecdotes. In fact, when we met Iram in jail, and there was one precondition laid down by the prison authorities. They said no cameras, no recording devices. So we went, myself and Shiv spent about an hour with Iram in her cell inside the hospital, and in fact, she autographed in my book one small statement, and which really moved me, and even now I recall with the saying. She says, I want to live a normal life, I want to marry, and I want to have children. And so imagine her feeling, and so are many Manipuris. In fact, they were under the Armed Forces Special Powers Act with under violations, and in the wake of the conflict situation, the state was adopting a tough response. And when we met the army officials, they had their own narrative, and they of course justified whatever they did. And in fact, the second anecdote I want to narrate is a meeting with the widows who were affected by the conflict. It was organized, and myself and Shiv, had a 1 hour meeting with widows who were affected, and who, what you call, for no fault of theirs, were facing serious injustices. In fact, the state had no support mechanism whatsoever for such families, because they were dubbed or characterized as those killed in underground elements or terrorists killed in action, and those people did not qualify for any support. And when Shiv and myself met a group of widows in a closed room, and it was a heart, rending story. We were deeply moved, and even now, their children's right to education and their own situation has not been addressed properly, and there's a lot that needs to be done, and some people have been eliminated and their families have been forgotten. And the third one was, last year I went to Manipur, and there was a solidarity for victims organized. I saw an elderly gentleman, aged 65 years old, and he said, my son was killed in an encounter, and at the end of it, there was an officer who tells me that here is a 5 lakh compensation, you take it. And he says, I want to tell you that I will kill your son and I will give you 5 lakh compensation, will you take it? And today I cannot remove the sight of this elderly gentleman from my mind. And it was so powerful, so what you call it, entrenched in my mind. And that is a feeling that is shared by many Manipuris who have lost their what you call close kith and kin, and who are awaiting justice. And that's how we got into this thing. And there has been a long what you call movement for the repeal of Armed Forces Special Powers Act or the draconian provisions under the AFSPA. Our students, when traveled to Manipur under the Center for Human Rights Studies, spent several weeks, assisted Bablu and his organization, documented each of these cases of extrajudicial execution, and gave the details to Maneka Guruswamy, who is the amicus curiae, and that has helped immensely. And Maneka has also acknowledged. And so this is the context in which the background to this consultation. We have prepared a draft report, and based, today's consultation is what you call it's happening during the midst of our examinations, end semester examinations, but our students want to be actively associated with it, and we hope to circulate the deliberations of today, and we hope to improve the draft report based on the deliberations of today, and circulate it to all concerned. And now we are so delighted that the former Chief Justice of the High Court of Chhattisgarh and former Chairperson of the Manipur State Human Rights Commission, Honorable Mr. Justice Shishak, is with us today, and he has seen a lot of violations during his own tenure. He knows the ground realities, and I want to extend a warm welcome to him, and for accepting our request and for being present here today. And we look forward to hearing from him. And I also want to acknowledge the presence of Professor Shiv Vishwanathan, who is heading the Center for the Study of Knowledge Systems. And both of us were involved very closely, and for about a week we were in Manipur, and then after we followed up on a regular basis the developments. And I'm so happy that Professor Stephen Marks from Harvard University, and he has been mentoring the Center for Human Rights Studies, and he has been taking a close interest, and he's also a member of our governing body. Steve, we are so delighted that you are here. And I also want to acknowledge the presence of from EFORM, Edina, who is here, and also Mr. Bobby Chen. Thank you very much for traveling from Manipur and for being part of this consultation. And we really look forward to the next panel. And I want to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Ravi Nair, South Asian Human Rights Documentation Center, and I'm sure his inputs will prove very critical in the way forward session. With these few observations, I now request our Honorable Justice Shishak to give his inaugural address. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me to have a part in today's program. I hate to say, but I must say, and who who like to hear when I say I am sick. Nevertheless, yes, I've been sick for over 45 days or so. I'm under treatment. On receipt of the letter from Registrar Murthy, from Bablu, I sat down with him, I prayed with him, but I was unable to say yes. That day I was in Imphal. I live in a far-flung area in Ukhrul district, bordering Myanmar. Then the next day, that I met my wife, discussed how your health is not good. I won't think it's advisable for you to travel. But then somehow I felt inclined I should just come. If not for anything else, to say I support the program. And I do so now. So in one way, reluctantly, I accepted the invitation and I am here. The sickness, what do you call it? I don't know. I thought I should tell vertigo, the dizziness, very, very severe type of dizziness. I can't really turn even here, so what I would do is I would just face straight like this, turning this way, that way. I feel quite handicapped. I should be telling, but I'm telling. So at the outset, I say, I support the program. Every effort by this forum, by anyone, as individuals, as intellectuals, as social activists, moral activists, whatever you call, I do not know. But people who have hearts, good hearts, hearts that love human persons as human persons, I often say, we must see each other as human persons. Manipur, though a tiny state, has given us now a big problem. India is almost unable to digest it, but they must. The earlier the authority in Delhi understands the ground situation and deal with it effectively, the better, I feel. To allow things to go on for so long, does not do good to anyone, not to anyone. We may just refresh, no. As I was lying flat, I couldn't turn this way, so I slept the whole night in this one position, getting up with great difficulty. I was praying. It came to my mind, why not tell the people? It was really in 1958 when Manipur was represented. One from the hills, Mr. R.S. Fisa, he died years ago. Another El Acho from the valley, Bablu's community, he also represented. They were here when the debate went on as regards Armed Forces Special Powers Act. And in the first, I would feel why they felt the need of this act at all, but they did so. But I want to tell you, both MPs opposed. It is recorded in the debates of 1958. They both opposed. And who cares, whether now or then, or even hereafter, do we have enough confidence that Parliament would be fair to small communities, particularly in the Northeast? Please understand me in a positive way. I'm not really emotional, but I feel deeply about it. we've been neglected far too long. We want to be accepted as equal citizens. That ASPA, now the most hated, I would say the word hate, surely hated. People are cursing the leaders in Delhi. Maybe Mr. Modi is for me, people keep asking me in our small state and in the districts, etc. What do you think about this man, this BJP man, who is trying to destroy Christianity, this and that? Don't forget about it. Christianity cannot be destroyed. You may be destroyed, I might be killed, but not your Christianity. I take him to be a good man. Prime Minister, perhaps he's a good man, very knowledgeable man, maybe meaning to do good for millions of Indians. Good to have a man like him. But still, the way things are developing, ominous signs are there. Whether India as such will go on like this for many more years to come. We are too small people, small fries to be talking about big things. But I want you at least to accept me as one who is expressing from my heart. I am not a very knowledgeable person also. I did not really learn much. But what I say, I'm supported my heart. Now, when the ordinance of Armed Forces Special Powers, the ordinance was issued, this was during the British rule. Indians were second-class citizens in India. I want it to be understood properly. Let my voice also be heard by a few of us. Let us hear together. India, millions of Indians were ruled by a handful of British people. I have no hatred for British people. Maybe there are a lot of things for which they should be thankful for today, even with examining the history. But to accept the fact that you were second-class citizens, not now, don't feel hurt. I got very hurt when I was serving as Chief Justice of Himachal Pradesh High Court. Someday I just walked through the mall, and it belonged to the British. The Indians had nothing to do, along with dogs. They were not permitted to go out on the street, the mall, I am told. There was a big signboard. Indians and dogs are not permitted here. And come on, I appeal to you through the teeming millions. Somehow, it never happened to the Northeast people, though they were in the primitive stage. Half naked, they might be, but they were honorable people, citizens, in their own right, in the jungles. Maybe half-fed, primitive, poor, and therefore we will never call dogs at a time. Second was because they were subjects of the British king. The Northeast people were never subjects of any king. There are many other things they come back to me, even remembering these kind of things, you see, when just 50, 60 years ago, you were treated this way. And today, at that time, if they use the provisions of Armed Forces Special Power to control, to suppress the Indian movement during the time of Quit India movement, they used it, they hated it, they cried out against the white people, they cursed the white people, but soon after they left, giving them freedom, they began to suppress their own citizens. This is the greatest shame in the history of India, as far as I am concerned. I would feel, and many, many Nagas, thousands of them have gone to the grave, cursing Indian leadership for having killed them, for having burned their houses time and again, for having raped their women, for having killed their children, for having kept them in concentration camps, so on and so forth. Is there any mechanism now to let the people forget the past and come on together? Now let us make one society, one people. Let us be honorable citizens of a country. What they did not like, why they should apply it to us. As I said, they had alien rulers, the white-skinned people ruling them. They're controlling them. They're in their own country. And today, we are said to be a republic. If this is the way in the republic citizens must go through, it's a shame. It's simply to claim that India is the largest democracy under the sun will give no meaning now to the people of Northeast. I will not just talk about Manipur, Ruplu's community, Métis. I'm a Naga. Nagas have much more grievances, perhaps, than any other people against government of India. There's nothing to hide about it. The talk is going on still. 20 years with the present group, IM group, whatever. I would suppose they should be talking to the leaders of the Nagas, talking to IM leaders. Never mind if they mean to do anything at all. Let them go ahead. But even after 20 years of ceasefire, they love this law, ASPA, Armed Forces Special Power. They're not ready to remove it. Listen for ceasefire and ceasefire and ceasefire every day, 20 years. And yet, without this, that Indian Army cannot do anything is simply, I don't know. What kind of plea is this? That means allow them do as they like. Let them tremble. Do you think this alienation of citizens from the rest of the country, that should be number one point for government of India, in my view, to consider if people are alienated from the central government. I don't know how long we shall stand united as a country. Dangerous things are coming up. See, 1958, from 1958, when I was in second year college, these Armed Forces Powers came into force. First, the target was the Nagas. The Nagas, my people. And how many have it wiped out? Never mind. Even now, in the hills, probably you know that Oinam thing. I mean, I hope some of you would rather visit someday and meet the people, the children who are crying still. And last year they called me, come on, I said, what can I do? I would rather attend a church service and let me share from the Word of God and let us go to the feet of God. Come on, let us forgive them. So just unable to forgive. I said, come on. Unless you forgive, you'll have bitterness in your heart. Come on, no record of it. Come on, let us meet. No. You know, what is your desire? I can't think of the incident. My daddy was buried alive. I was 15 years. When I rushed home, he was still alive. I had to pull him out. come on, your ASPA and your people must come up to say this is no good. Suppose you succeed eliminating us also, it doesn't do any good to the government of India. I would feel so. I don't want to, I hate to say also about myself, even when I was a judge, I became a victim. The question is, to say anything, to pass an order even by a high court judge, oh, they won't take it. I was sitting in a court in Imphal. My house is in Nagaland, in Dimapur. I was sitting, hearing such cases, disappearance of people, even their own soldiers, policemen also, anything. They would take away. People had witnesses, they would admit. But where have they gone? When I questioned myself, the army people, they would say, no, just on arrival there in Ukro or in the camp, he just got down. And there's a, but instead of taking action against him, you see, and that the government would expect we would excuse him. There's nothing doing. He wouldn't come home. What a sad thing. He'll never be reunited with his wife, with the children. What we could do was, well, to grant some compensation. That's all. It's only symbolic. It's a horrible. Many, many cases. So they would like to influence, even right, maybe from the Home Minister of anything. Well, I'm saying things are very real. Things are real. And one day when I was hearing a case in Imphal, when Bablu's town, the call came that your house has been ransacked. A small, very, this thing, not a costly building. Nevertheless, my home, completely destroyed. What happened? There were reports that underground people were hiding in your house. Did we catch them? Catch them. Who was there? Nothing. Nothing. Even still Almira under lock and key was broken open with the use of hammers or crowbar or whatever. I really don't want to say much about myself, but it is a fact. It is a fact. And therefore, it's for you to think how they have utilized this law, which is the real culprit here. And later, some Major General Bande or somebody calling out from far off the justice, what have you done? You are not just a person. You are such a big shot of the government of India. India is a big country. You don't have to go and apologizing to people. Do a gentleman's job. I only want to know. They would never tell. Later, through High Court, I was informed. They said it was a mistake. Some wrong information. Oh, that's it. Well, that is it. But how long? How long? Assuming at one stage they thought such a law was used in order to suppress, they call insurgency in the Northeast. It cannot be used perpetually. Perpetuity is already attained the state of perpetuity. Emergency, the law must have a limit. And for India to say that without this law they cannot run the government is simply just unbelievable. Unbelievable. In aid of civil administration. That's what the plea of government is. To protect innocent citizens. But anyway, they would go against the insurgents or the underground groups or and all that. Well, we have nothing much to say as far as the insurgents or underground groups or armies are concerned. Naga army, for example, they might, and they have killed a lot of them. And the Naga people also have a lot of Indian soldiers. So also in the valley, the same thing. But to say that every time they take the plea that they are their security forces to protect the civilians. One day in Wainam case, when every time, in every incident, see, it was a crossfiring, in an encounter, they died. In an encounter, crossfiring, the civilian died. Every time encounter between warring factions, and the dead was only civilians. So we question in the courtroom, come on, whenever you fire, your bullet seems to be only going to civilians. How do you do it? An encounter always takes place in the jungle, and yet civilians die. People, farmers coming home, they kill. Children going to school, they kill. And as far as that home Wainam case is concerned, even pregnant women would not be spared. In the open playground, babies would fall from the wombs of women on the ground. People saw it. Do you think those who are alive will ever forgive those Indian soldiers? No. It's $1 million question. But I am saying this thing simply. The seriousness of things that prevail in the valley in Manipur, in the hills up there, mostly the Nagas. They have suffered and suffered enough. It should not be prolonged. Something should be done. And as a result of the efforts being made even here, people who have suffered so long, who have gone through misery, hunger, torture. People even putting through big sticks to the rectum up to the mouth. I don't want to say. It's all documented. It's all documented. It has reached even the United Nations. Well, Naga cases there. From 64, the first ceasefire was in 1964. How many houses were burned? 6 times, 7 times, 10 times. People were not allowed to go to the fields. The policy of the government was that they might die of starvation. These kind of things are going on. But right now, one thing that is going on is the case that went to the Supreme Court as far as those, unaccounted killings, extrajudicial killings, and the loved ones are still trying. They think the actual story will be told someday. They want to hear it. Their loved ones will not come back, but they must be told what has happened. Don't we have a benign, a sovereign republic government in Delhi? Only when Delhi hears and listens, things will begin to move. As far as I understand, Delhi listens to army reports only. 100%. This is bad. This is bad. There must be a shift in policy. I was State Human Rights Commission chairperson for some, I don't know, I think I have taken much time, but maybe 1-2 minutes. I have told enough in Imphal, but here maybe for the first time, I'm just a little. I was very disappointed. I was on the way to Madhya Pradesh as I was invited to be there for some time as a human rights chairperson. Mr. Dick Vijay Singh was the, I think, chief minister at that time. Then on the way to Imphal, there are people. After all, I'm from Manipur. They say, why should you go away? We need you here. Your birthplace, a man of this soil. So I said, well, my wife said, I think you can't go away. What explanation we give? We are not going there for money to earn anything. You say, all right, if people have confidence, if you can do something, well, I think I have a health strength for the time being. I was there. Accepted. Nothing, and nothing. But I couldn't leave the office halfway. People would not understand the actual position. I stayed through 5 years. Nothing could be done. No cooperation, nothing. Provisions of law, just completely bypassed. Just appointment was issued. One old car was issued, and then one driver. And then this thing, no repair, no security, no chokitara, no PO, nothing. You just take this 9,000 rupees or 12,000 rupees or say, nothing, no product, nothing. And there were a few others who were appointed later as members. I said, we cannot go on. But supposing I just quit it. And on a few occasions, I felt like quitting. But the second thought came, no. Come on, if there could be something. But we did something that is all right. But the state never meant to have Human Rights Commission in the true sense with them. They wouldn't like to do in accordance with the provisions of law. This is a central act. Everything is there. No police officer, no secretary, no this, no that, this thing. A little at the end of the month, then somebody had to run around to get that allowance or something paid. One whole month. And then later, sir, your monthly this and that, that's all. In the end, of course, I have said enough in Imphal. That day I left the office, some pressmen came in and said, what do you say? Your opinion? Oh, I don't want to say much now, I'm going, but let there be no repeat of this in Manipur. It's a big signboard, so Manipur Human Rights Commission, a signboard commission. You continue? I appeal to you. I do not know, I don't have the experience how to go about, but think about it. Maybe to strengthen State Human Rights Commission, we need, of course, people of impeccable care. This is everywhere, not only Human Rights Commission, everywhere. We need people of integrity, honesty, and of impeccable character. Do we have? Must be. They don't want to bring in good people. They want to bring in only chamchas. They call it, I think, chamchas, whatever was it. Pliable persons. And things will fail. In this regard, I appeal to you people who are here, to think seriously if there is some way to strengthen, through your help also, this Manipur State Human Rights Commission. Just one they appointed recently. When the BJP CM is there, but I said, come on, just for an eye wash, please do not have commission. Wipe it. I said, no. We mean it. Can you call a spade? Spade. I think we have to go ahead. And then still they're not able to find a chairperson still. Somebody, one lawyer, senior lawyer, has been just appointed, is sitting there, that's all. We can't blame him. Namesake. This is nothing. After all, it's an institution. It's a statutory body. Is there a way now, through some way, to some level, maybe through central government or anything, they should be taken up seriously? At least investigation, at least to make the records, baka, making available everything, at least they can be extremely helpful for future generations. I don't know if I have said something which might help you think with reference to the topic you have already printed. Manipur is a very, very serious case. It's something like terminally ill type of society, getting very, very sick. Who is to blame? Only 2-3 years ago, when from United Nations, that who came? Rapporteur, Professor Hills or somebody. Well, he was not permitted even to enter Manipur. Human Rights Commission was sick. So we had to rush to Guwahati. I simply say, well, what I can do. But whatever little I remember, let me say, but I took oath myself voluntarily. I speak the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help me God, my God. And I said a few things, that's all. And maybe they took down some of the grievances that were brought before him also, I think. They prepared, I think, a Pablo knows, according to him. We also sent later some recommendations, this and that. They said, come on, do something. I don't know. More than that, I don't think I have any contribution, except that each day I kneel down and pray that change may come about. It's about time. Let it begin once again here in this hall today. God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Justice, for sharing your insights and the entire history of AFSPA. I'm sure we all join you in your plea to, strengthen the Manipur State Human Rights Commission. So may I now request Professor Muthi to felicitate Justice Shishak. Now invite my colleague Anubhav to lay out the objectives of the consultation.
Thank you, Prashant. Thank you, Justice Shishak, for laying out the program and laying out the issues we are dealing with and informing us of what really is happening in Manipur, not since just a few years, but since decades. I would just like to add something here before I move on and lay down what we are going to do here. A point which Justice Shishak made, that Manipur as a society is terminally ill. We need to do something about it. That is something which we felt when we visited Manipur. This was 2 years ago. together with two other researchers and two senior law students, we visited to see firsthand, to learn firsthand what really is conflict, what really is what really is this terminally ill concept which Justice Shishak mentioned about. And it was quite a profound experience to see how a society can function even with such archaic laws like AFSPA. Even as an outsider, one feels the force of such laws and such injustices in a society which is in India, governed by our constitution, liberal constitution. That's the dilemma we are dealing with. However, as academics, researchers, the inspiration for this topic also is drawn from the Supreme Court of India in its first momentous judgment of 2016 in the EFAM case, where the Supreme Court itself showed the way that it is the truth we are looking at. It is our criminal justice system may not be looking for the truth, but in societies like Manipur, it is the truth we are looking at. Again, as researchers, it was quite difficult to see how transitional justice can function in India, in Manipur, and that is why visiting Manipur was a profound experience for us, because we could see that the society itself has some mechanisms to heal. We also saw, we were there working with the EFAM, which is an association of widows. We worked very closely with these very strong and powerful women. And just the resoluteness, just the resolve to heal the society, to keep the injustices which have happened to them also aside in favor of the society, to bring about peace, is something which is hard to ignore for anyone. So that is where the inspiration for this framework came about. It also came about from the fact that criminal prosecutions, yes, very important, yes, very necessary, but may not always be the answer, especially in situations where prolonged conflicts have happened, and for prolonged periods, serious human rights violations have occurred and have been swept under the carpet. Therefore, transitional justice. What is transitional justice? This is something which we are also planning to clarify, especially how it functions in a country like India, which has numerous conflicts but undeclared conflicts, which has a government which at the international forum needs to speak something else, and at the domestic forum, what it practices, it needs to sweep under the carpet. So it is also grappling with a balance which it needs to always maintain. So what is the components of transitional justice which we need to look at? Prosecutions, we believe that the Supreme Court, the Honorable Supreme Court, is doing a momentous job. And in fact, it has in itself included transitional justice components. Surprisingly, why do I say that? Because first of all, the documentation of 1528 cases is part of a transitional justice truth mechanism. And that has been done by the association with the help of NGOs, and that has formed the basis for this case. That is one they have taken action upon. That is based on the right to know the truth. The other cases where the Supreme Court has taken cognizance of are cases which have been inquired by the National Human Rights Commission. That again is a component of transitional justice. Again, commissions of inquiries, judicial inquiries. So these are not normal processes. These are some judicial and non-judicial processes which are complementing transitional justice, especially the prosecution part. But now what remains is the victim's part. Prosecution is one thing, and it is quite impossible to have prosecution in each case. That is the limitations of a criminal justice system. However, how can we complement it through other non-judicial processes is something which is a key deliberation for today and which we are grappling with and we are hoping to learn from all of you. These non-judicial processes are focused on reparations, providing reparations to the victims and their families. Reparations do not just mean compensation, they mean psychosocial support, they mean economic welfare, they mean social benefits. And we need to start conversations around these. And I think the first panel, which will give us a picture of the challenges we are grappling with in Manipur, will inform us how to go about that. Now, just one final question. Transitional justice is looked at as an international concept. Even the Supreme Court in 2016 judgment has mentioned right to know the truth, but it has not mentioned the word transitional justice. Because academically, the concept is still, you can say, a little vague, but its vagueness comes from its flexibility. It is not purely an international concept, it is something which can be molded to the local needs. For example, in Africa, they have resorted to the Gacaca courts in Rwanda. They have also incorporated the principle of Ubuntu in laying down their transitional justice mechanisms. Now in Manipur, when we visited, there are similar processes, unique, very creative and very powerful processes. The women's organizing themselves is one such process. The concepts of achumba, which basically relates to truth, is a Manipuri concept. The concept of itabo is something which is a Manipuri concept of reconciliation. And I hope our Manipur panel enlightens us a bit about these local concepts. So with that, what we are trying to achieve here is what is the form of transitional justice which may be applicable in Manipur. We are basing this meeting on the EFARM case, of course, but we are not forgetting that the conflict is ongoing, the violations are also ongoing. They might have reduced, but they are ongoing. There are journalists being picked up, there are kidnappings happening, and so we need to also look into the guarantees of non-recurrence and which should form part of the framework which we are discussing. So with this, I hope all of you will pose a lot of questions which we are sure to take into account. There is a comment sheet in the bag which has been provided to you. Please write your observations, your questions, either to the speakers or something which we should take into account in our study. And please drop that before you leave. It will really benefit us to take in your opinions in our report. Thank you so much. And with this, we will almost immediately start the first panel. Thank you.
I just want to add on to what Anubhav said. When we are looking at the healing, when we are looking at the reconciliation, it is not that it is at the exclusion of the criminal justice processes. In fact, disappearances have happened, torture has happened, extrajudicial executions have happened. They must be addressed squarely, and we believe in walking on several parallel legs. It is not that we are looking at one issue, truth, at the exclusion of all others. Every aspect should be pursued, and as Justice Shishak said, let us be honorable citizens, and like they must enjoy the rule of law, they must enjoy justice, they must have the entire range of the human rights and fundamental freedoms. And this consultation is looking at one facet, but we are not advocating for exclusion of criminal trials, and we must bring out the perpetrators to the justice. We must hold those who have caused extrajudicial executions, or those who have, in fact, there was a case where Iram Sharmila's, in fact, the fast was a response to the shooting at a bus stand on innocent civilians, and she couldn't withstand the gravity of the situation. She couldn't, they were not underground elements, they were innocent civilians, and waiting in a bus stop. And there are many such instances. In fact, in Nagaland, Mokokchung, there was a army convoy passing, and the tire got burst, and the army personnel mistook it as a that they were being fired upon, and they retaliated, and then the retaliation, a lot of people died, and there are many such instances. And Justice Shishak referred to the emergency powers. The Human Rights Committee has mentioned several times that the emergency has to be limited in duration, and it can't be that a state is under emergency for 2 or 3 decades or forever, that's not acceptable. And in fact, the armed force special powers could have been applied to some pockets and not to the entire state or entire territories, so in fact, the Human Rights Committee, when considered India's report, had made these observations, and then India is unable to submit follow-up reports thereafter, and these are all issues which must be addressed. And now I request the panelists of the second session to please come and